This episode is brought to you by Excel Coaching Academy. Hey guys, I'm really excited to let you know that I started a mindset coaching business. So, what I want to do with this business is I want to help entrepreneurs, business owners, salespeople, leaders, and fitness enthusiasts or athletes develop the right mindset to increase revenue, improve business or performance, and overcome the challenges needed to become the best version of themselves. You can get more information about this by emailing info@excelcoaching.academy. Different enough that I think we can probably learn a lot from each other.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Um, so the way I normally start this thing out, man, if you want to introduce yourself, just tell us who you are, what you do, anything that you think is relevant to preface the conversation. We can go from there.
Yeah, I'm Travis Holzem, and I own a company called Food Forest Design Minnesota, and we transform your average lawn, unused lawns, and spaces into regenerative, self-sustainable, food-producing ecosystems, and that will feed you and your family for years to come. And yeah, there's so many different things you could talk about with growing your own food and the benefits of that, other than being able to feed yourself. So
Yeah.
I think
Well,
we got a
that's
lot
like,
to talk about.
I mean, that's like incredibly important, man, because you think about like growing your own food and people think, you know, especially these days, there's a lot of talk about the holistic side and like, getting away from the big, I guess you would call it big agriculture. Like you don't know what's sprayed on the food, how it's treated, what's
Mhm.
going on with it. And so there's a lot of interest, I think, in people trying to do their own personal gardening now. Uh I can tell you as a kid, man. So I live in South Carolina, grew up in South Carolina out in the country. We had a garden, um, that we grew a lot of food and stuff in, and it's different, man. Like it's different. The stuff you grow for yourself is different from what you
Yes,
buy at the store. You know what I mean?
totally.
And and there's a whole science to it because like so I have a landscaping company, but we don't plant food. We might put some plants or something in, and there's a lot of science that kind of goes into it. So
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. I
so
mean, totally, because you're trying to make it the least amount of maintenance as possible for the homeowner, your steward.
right.
So basically, you're designing a little ecosystem so it works, but it grows on its own. Nature takes care of it.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
okay. Yeah, so okay, so you mostly do like just edible, like fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. Like you just the edible stuff is mostly what you do?
no, I mean, we do a lot of stuff in your backyard. I mean, there's so many things you can do. You got uh, some people like, we do homesteaders too. So you
Okay.
got off grid stuff, you got, solar greenhouses. We build grape trellises,
Okay.
your raised garden beds. I mean, everything. Sometimes we're asked to do fire pits, to do it in our entire backyard or a deck. And I subcontract out the deck. I'm not doing that,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But I put up deer fences,
Okay.
both wooden fences, and then there's also some metal and PVC fences. They're like almost invisible,
Yeah, yeah.
because they're black. So when they're in the landscape and they're black, you can see right through them. It doesn't even hamper your view in your backyard and stuff
Yeah, I've
like
seen
that.
that
But
before. People use like the black chicken wire and it's like it's not even
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I put deer fences up too, and do a lot of different stuff besides that. We can put a pond in and do water features, water catchment,
Okay.
chicken coops, basically anything to do with being self-sufficient.
I got you.
So
Yeah, so man, there's so much there. I think one thing that or the couple things that I really wanted to talk to you about was the gardening, like people gardening their own food, because I think there's a big interest in that. And then like trade entrepreneurship because being an entrepreneurship is hard. Being a trade person is hard. And when you combine
mhm.
the two of them, man, it's like it's a
Yeah,
hard job, you know.
yeah,
Um, but I guess we'll start with I guess it's just the science of like that goes into this. So you're talking about I guess where would a person like how would they start to grow their own food? What's like the first step to growing your own food?
you know what? I would start small. I mean, if you want to, it depends what you want to grow. If you want to grow an apple tree, I say go get an apple tree and find a place in your yard. that, see how much sun you need, find that spot in your yard. I don't know how much rain you get, the property's going to get, but you kind of want to get all that figured out, what type of soil you're putting the tree in. So
Right.
you can add your soil amendments to the root ball when you put it in the ground. So it can adapt to that soil and you're putting the right nutrients it needs in there until it gets established.
Okay.
So
And so, but that might be different for like different parts of the country, like depending
yeah,
on kind of where you're at, right?
yeah, different, whatever grow zone you're in. Like I'm in Minnesota, so I can only plant certain types of trees that can survive the winter, so
Okay.
they go dormant, drop all their leaves, and then they wake up in the spring again and start growing again.
I got
So
you.
yeah, and trees are so low maintenance as
Hmm.
far as growing food. You put a tree in the ground one time, right? And as long as you make sure it's getting enough water and you put some good natural mulch around that tree and, build some soil around that, things are going to come back year after year and more abundant year after year. So imagine 5 of those, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have all your different, and you can go berry bushes. And I mean, before you know it, in a small space, you could have 50 different types of food growing year after year after year with that, and right outside
Yeah.
your back door.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that because I think a lot of people think that like they don't have, they don't have enough space for a garden, like to grow their own food, especially if they live like in a very tight, location, or if there's not a lot of soil or whatever. I think a big thing for people is that they don't feel like they have enough room to grow, the garden. But you're seeing a lot of these people, man, they're actually making the gardens like in these raised beds,
Yep.
and it's like the gardens are almost like they're vertical instead of like horizontal. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And, I live in a townhouse right now.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
looking for land so I can get a lot of land and build out the most, the Garden of Eden, right? But I have a 10-foot by 10-foot concrete patio in front of my townhouse. It's the only place I can grow anything. Well, I had 45 different types of fruit, vegetables, herbs, and everything growing in that space
Mm,
because I went from all the way on the ground and I had shelves and I just layered everything. And it looked like a jungle, but I had 45 different types of things growing in that small of a space right
that's
outside my
crazy.
door, so
That's crazy.
yeah.
What do you do? So what? Because I've heard of this before. So being on the landscaping side, I think I asked you this before. Being on the landscaping side, somebody asked me about the raised bed, and I've seen people use like cinder blocks. I've seen people use like bricks or whatever. The person asked me, he was like, he wanted to use treated lumber,
Okay.
and I was
Yeah.
like, man, I don't know about that because it's going to seep into the soil. It's going to go into your vegetables. Like I don't know about using something that's got a chemical on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of, people that say that stuff is okay to use. There's a lot of others say it's not okay to use. But then I try to go with cedar,
Okay.
untreated cedar, and if I had to, I put I seal it up with an oil or something like that. So for the weatherproofing,
Yeah.
but usually use cedar or
Okay.
some people want treated wood, so I'll use it. I'll try to talk them out of it, but if that's what they want, that's what they want. You know, uh, but I try
Is
to keep everything as natural as possible, right? So there's none of those chemical inputs we don't need.
Right. But is that a real thing? Is that a real concern though that it's like sucking up the chemicals through the soil? I mean, that's possible, right? For it to suck up and then get into the food?
I just don't know how likely that is with
Okay.
such a small space. You're not dumping a whole bunch of that in the soil. It's in the wood, right?
Right. Okay.
So I don't know how much that would seep in. Really, I don't even know the answers to that. So
Okay. Well, I
um,
don't know. I guess it's better. Like if there's alternatives, if there's cedar or whatever, if there's alternatives, like it makes sense to use the same. I mean, just be safe, because you
yeah,
don't
and
want
you can do aluminum or
to. Okay.
steel, galvanized steel. They have those out there. I've
Okay.
actually I built an annual garden for a guy that started a hobby farm, and he wanted 24 4-foot by 8-foot garden beds. So we did all galvanized. So 24 beds 4 foot by 8 foot in 4 rows, man. It's just what it was, 75 feet wide by 100 feet long, about.
Oh, okay.
And then just had these all laid out, wide enough to drive a lawn tractor through, and pretty big space. And then put a deer fence up around that. So, but had to put every single one of those together.
Right.
And
So that's a job.
Oh, trust me, man. The amount of pieces they come in, and you got to put them together. Yeah, it was quite the job.
So you mentioned about the deer fence and about like keeping the I guess the rodents or the animals out.
Yeah,
the critters out. I remember that being a big thing, man. Like the garden we used to have, they used to put like a little fence up, like they'd put like the some kind of piece of tin or something to make a noise so when the wind blows,
yeah.
it like keeps them away or whatever.
People use beer cans, stuff like that, or soda cans. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, because they'll eat, like they'll take your whole crops, but like they'll take everything.
Oh, they love trees. They love apple trees, cherry trees. I mean, they'll come and eat your branches right off. I've just seen them, and I tell, if they have deer around, as soon as you put these trees in the ground, we got to make sure they're wrapped until they're big enough that, because these deer, when they get on their hind legs, they can get up 10 feet.
Oh yeah.
And then they're going to grab the branches, and you'll see some of these have all the branches missing from 10 feet up because they stand on their hind legs. And then the lower branches are there, but the ones on top are all pulled out,
Right. Yeah.
But
That
but
makes me
they'll
think,
just destroy your stuff. They'll just destroy it.
I wonder how well it will work out if somebody had if this garden was in their backyard and they had like a dog or something back there. I wonder if that will work out.
Yeah, and also there's motion activated sprinkler systems.
Okay.
So if a deer comes, you see there's a path they come through to your space, right?
Yep.
You put this motion activated camera near there, so as soon as that motion comes, the sprinkler goes off and scares the deer away.
Okay. I've never heard of that before. That's interesting though.
Because it spooks them, right?
Yeah, right.
And,
Yeah.
and then I'm sure they'll get used to that, like, after the 10th time.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you get involved at all with okay, so let's say somebody's got their garden or whatever and they want to keep doing that. Do you help people with like the seeds, like saving the seeds, because I know that I guess I don't even know how you do this, but I know there's a way to save the seeds to like replant for the next year.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can do that. We haven't offered that as a service as of yet,
Okay.
but we are, it's because I've been getting more and more. The more I get in the ground, the more food forests there are. So they all need maintenance, and so that is going to be like harvesting food at the end of the summer, in the fall, so they can preserve it for the winter. So we're going to have experts come and teach each one how to have classes, how to preserve their food, how to take care of it. And then we'll also go do pruning of their trees, and if they need more mulch laid down, we'll check on it for them if they don't want to do it themselves. Otherwise, we'll teach them how.
Okay. I heard before, I don't know if this is true or not. I heard that it was like it's illegal for farmers to harvest their own seeds. I don't know if that's true or not. It was like one of those tinfoil hat conspiracy things.
I believe it is the GMO seeds they get. The corn, GMO corn.
Oh yeah.
That's a real cutthroat, highly. I mean, I think 95% of the corn in the U.S. is GMO corn, and Mexico just said we don't want your GMO corn anymore, and places around the world are saying no more to GMOs, and it's the stuff it's grown in, the glyphosate, and the Roundup, that's in. I mean, the seeds are made to explode the stomach of the pest that is eating the corn, right?
Yeah.
What do you think it's doing to the stomachs of humans, right?
Well, that's where a lot of people say that's where celiac comes from. The
Oh yeah,
gluten sensitivity.
all these stomach issues are from the food we eat. There's
Yeah.
no reason for otherwise.
Yeah.
What
It's
you
and that's
put in your body is what is your everything starts in the gut.
yeah.
Everything, you
And
know.
that's crazy. It's crazy that we allow that. Like, especially when you said other countries, we like it, so in America we want to think that we're better and we have all this knowledge and stuff like that. But it's like these other countries are outlawing this same thing that we're talking about. And then we're just sitting here and we're all getting, stomach issues or diabetes or overweight or whatever it is because of it. And it's like these other things don't exist in these other countries.
No,
Um,
and matter of fact, just a few weeks ago, there was a woman in front of Congress or whatever talking about Fruit Loops, Kellogg's
oh
Fruit
yeah.
Loops, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the ones that are made in the US have all these different, really, really bright colors, all these fake dyes and stuff, right? Because the kids like it because they're bright. Well, the
Right.
ones Canada gets, it's dyed with beet juice or beetroot and carrots.
Yep.
Those are the colors for the Fruit Loops up there. That's made with safe ingredients. So there's only like 6 ingredients in theirs, and there's like 30 or 40 in these Fruit Loops, right?
Yeah.
So the U.S. company is selling shit food to the U.S., but makes a better version for other countries because they won't allow the shit food in their country.
That's insane, man.
And,
That's
and
insane. So I don't know if you heard about the yellow dye situation.
And red
You,
dye
you,
also just got outlawed. They just took red dye. They're taking it out of everything.
I don't do that. I don't do this often, man, because I need somebody. I need like an engineer over here with me to do this. But I'm going to look this up. But there's with the yellow dye. I don't know if it was rats or whatever they used. Some kind of lab animal that they tested it on. It literally made their stomach transparent, like you could see through and see their organs. It's like, and that's yellow dye that's in some, like anything that's like M&M's has it. I'm pretty sure M&M's has
Yeah,
yellow dye. Anything that's yellow, the Fruit Loops, like it's dyed with this yellow dye
yeah.
product, and it's like that is insane, man. It's insane that like, and then we, especially the children, because it's colorful and everything, we eat it. I mean, it's just
Parents
insane.
feed it to their kids. The kids are eating what's in front of them, so it's the parents' fault. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? The
yeah,
kid don't have a choice because that's what they're being fed. But the parents are not knowledgeable and they don't care to understand the food they're putting in their kids' bodies is garbage, And one way to get rid of all that, grow your own food, period. That's one way to get big agriculture out of your life. And then you get big pharma out of your life, because you're healthy. Because all these kids now, the food they eat, stomach issues when they're real young. Well, guess what? Now you're a lifetime customer of big pharma. You're in that
right.
hamster wheel. Boom. All these diseases are because of the food we're eating. And
Yeah, it's
speaking of that red dye, just recently they're making it illegal, I guess now. But 30 years ago, it was taken out of makeup because it was causing cancer. But for the past 30 years, it's been in our foods.
So this
So
is I wanted to show you this. Now this is from, I'm gonna screen share this. Let me know if you can see this. This is from CNN. Okay. So like I don't know how I feel about that because I just feel like my bullshit meter automatically goes off with
yeah, oh
that.
yeah.
But it's like uh they must see that we got some
I
new
can't. Oh, here
administration.
we go. Now I see it.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
All right, it says okay, so this is from CNN.com. It says yellow food dye found in chips and candy corn turns skin transparent in mice, study says. And this was posted September 10, 2024. I'm trying to see who did this study.
Yeah, because it could.
Physics at the University of Texas at Dallas. A new study is the first to author a new study that uses food dye to make mouse skin temporarily transparent. Dude, that is insane. Like what? Okay, so and then this is in the what's it say? Chips, candy corn. It doesn't say what specific one it is.
It's all chips. I mean,
but like
and candy corn.
that's crazy, man. And you got this is on CNN right now, you know, and like, I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
how the fact that that even made it to CNN is amazing to me.
True,
I don't know how
because
that made
they're
it.
usually in the pocket of big ag or big pharma.
That's what I'm saying. They must see that we got a new administration coming in and they're trying to clean up. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is,
I
but
don't think they'll be around much longer because they're not going to have any money left.
well,
They're
and that might be why they put it up. They might be why they're trying to be more transparent, pun
yeah,
intended.
because they just lost another 4 million, and it's the punitive damage. Who knows what those are going to be? Because
Man,
some yeah,
like
they're just
everybody's going to podcasts, everybody's going to that long form, you know, the mainstream media. First of all, nobody trusts them anymore. Very few people
no, you
trust them
can't.
anymore.
There's
And
nothing is when they're all reading from the same script. How can you
yeah,
believe anything, right? It's
and
not like they all checked out the sources and then came up with their own words.
yeah.
They're parroting the exact same words. There's no change in them, so they're just reading from scripts. It's not.
Well,
It's sad.
I think they see that, and I think they're starting to understand that if they're going to survive, they got to do something, man. Because I don't know if you saw Mark Zuckerberg put out a statement recently
Oh yeah,
about how he essentially admitted that Facebook censored things they shouldn't have censored during the not this past election but the recent election. And then he went on Joe Rogan and was talking about it. I'm like, dude,
sure.
what what's going on? Like, what is actually happening right now?
Do you know what? Do you know why this has all come about with Zuckerberg? Okay, remember he put 400 million in 2020, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now everyone's mad that Elon put some money behind Trump,
Okay.
but what Zuckerberg started getting into mixed martial arts, right?
Yep.
So he trains mixed martial arts. Well, then he started hanging around the UFC, hanging around Dana White, hanging around all these fighters, all the testosterone around him. He was a little twit liberal, right?
Yep.
And did whatever the government wanted him to, and did it, all this stuff. Well, he started hanging around these men and businessmen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Real
Yep.
businessmen, and then he started hanging around Trump and all these people at these UFC events, and he got some testosterone in him. Maybe he's doing TRT, who knows? But I saw that change a long time ago. When I saw him hang around them, I go, he's gonna switch sides because there's no way he can be a pussy and hang around these guys at the same time,
Well, I
And
saw it when, like, right after Trump got shot, he did an interview. Zuckerberg did an interview, and he was basically he basically said that he was not going to endorse either side this time. And then he was talking about, Trump stood up after he got shot and stuff. I was like, okay, he's about to switch sides. But what's crazy is Dana White. I think Dana White joined the Facebook board. He's on the board of directors now.
Yeah, and I'm sure that was one of the conditions. I'll join the board, man, but with none of this, because he doesn't he lets everyone say whatever they want to say. He doesn't tell fighters you can't say this or that. I mean, some of his fighters say some cringe shit, man.
Yeah, well, I mean that's his industry. But I mean Dana says like whatever he wants to say. He has no filter. But it's
he
like
doesn't have to worry,
But the crazy thing is that Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan, the biggest podcast in the world, and he was talking about how the Biden administration came to them and basically forced them to censor stuff about COVID. Like, that's crazy. It's crazy that that's the world that we live in. And like, that's got to be illegal, man. That has to be illegal.
Yeah.
There's no way. So people were pissed off about Elon Musk because they said that he tried to buy people from the election. He was, I don't know if you know this or not. Elon Musk was when he was, I think it was like Pennsylvania or somewhere, some of the states, he was offering people
$1 million a day.
$1 million a day. But it wasn't like, vote for this person, I'll give you $1 million. It was, I think it was actually a petition for something
To register to vote.
Yeah. It wasn't even like saying, hey, vote for Trump, I'll give you $1 million. That would have been probably illegal as hell, but that's not what he did.
No, he could get away with it because he's a citizen. He's not part of the election, he wasn't part of the campaign other than being a donor,
Okay.
So
well,
he could, as a business or a person, I think he can get away with that, giving away $1 million a day.
Either way, it's crazy that the Biden administration came to Facebook and said, "Nah, censor this." You
Oh,
know,
yeah, for sure,
like,
man.
I mean, I don't know what would have had Elon not bought. So I think there was a couple major things that like shifted a lot of people's perspective. And look, by the way, I I didn't plan on getting into politics today, but I guess we're here now, so we'll just go
Yeah.
ahead and do it. I
Another
think there
reason to
was
grow food.
yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to. Yeah, that's the whole
Yeah.
thing. So we were talking about the I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago about the election, and I said I think there's a couple things that led up to this. First of all, we were told that like Trump got I don't know like 300 and something electoral votes. I think it was a lot higher than that, man. I think it was a lot higher than that. Like I think that it was like 315 to 220 or whatever the final score was. I think it
Yeah.
was a lot higher than that. First of all, but like I think there was some major things that shifted it. I think when Elon bought Twitter, whenever that was a couple years ago. I
Yeah.
think Trump getting shot, that was a huge thing that like changed things. And we're still not to the bottom of that. Like it's just like they try to sweep that under the rug. Like
They
when's the last time
definitely
you heard
did.
about that?
It looked like a bunch of rookies, man. It just,
Like
I don't know.
there were
It's,
stories about the guy on the roof apparently got he apparently got orders to stand down and not shoot the guy. Like he saw the guy like crawling up the building, and he was told by somebody. This is the story. He was apparently told by somebody to not engage, and then the guy fired, and that's when he fired back. But if you also there's people who have broken down the sound of the gunshots. They're saying it was clearly different guns. Like there was clearly two different shooters. But anyways, I think that was a big thing that shifted people's perspectives. And then like too, man, one thing that really got me, as if I wasn't sold already, but one thing that really got me was like when they were doing these rallies, you had one side who had like business people, you had health people, you had like Robert Kennedy Jr.,
yeah, yeah,
who's
yeah,
been
exactly.
affected by the system. Like he's lost two
People
members in
that are
his family.
problem solvers
Right,
and
right.
game changers,
Yeah.
So yeah,
Um, but you had these people on that side in those rallies, and then the other rallies, you had like entertainers,
shaking their
musicians
ass, you
shaking their
know.
ass. I'm like, bro, okay, let's think about this like rationally. This is one side, and then the other side, you got like actual business people, actually people who can change the world. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. It's just I think all those things led up to it, but I think to get back to the point that we're talking about here, I think this food situation is something that's really people are really starting to pay attention to because when Robert Kennedy Jr. said that he was going to run and his whole thing was make America healthy again, like I'm really glad that he teamed up with Trump because it was good. It was like I wanted the health part. You know what I mean? Like I wanted that to
Mhm.
be the focus because I think we've gotten away from that. We've gotten away from the healthy food that we need to have. Like you said earlier, we have all these things that are illegal in other places, and we need that needs to be addressed. So I'm
Yeah,
hopeful
oh,
about that.
for sure. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that we allow these companies to feed us garbage. Why? And they could still make money by feeding us healthy stuff. It just doesn't make sense. It's all about
Yeah,
the dollar, man. They like money so much that they're willing to buy the politicians to keep making it. you know,
yeah,
and the
yeah, for
politicians
sure.
let them. And then they it's just no regulations and they can go wild. And but when you bring food back locally and decentralize from that system, you can solve all the problems we have. I mean,
The only thing that worries me about people and I know people, not everybody's going to do this because let's just be honest, growing your own food, that's a lot of work. But
well,
what?
that okay, two things there. An annual garden is work.
Okay.
Okay, that's where you're planting seeds in the spring, and then you harvest in the fall. But that's regular. That's gardening. That's work. A food forest, you put that in the ground one time. You're planting perennials. You're planting trees and bushes. Those grow forever. You plant them one time, so your maintenance is minimal for those. So you just come back and harvest every year.
Okay.
So the real work is gardening because
Yeah.
you got to pay attention to a lot of it. So that, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, I mean, well, even if it's like that, man, I still don't think a lot of like not everybody's gonna do it. You know what I mean? But
Oh yeah,
the only thing that worries me about doing it happening on a mass scale is like the farmers. Like what if everybody does it on a mass scale? I don't know, just say 30% of people start growing their own food. Like I don't want the farmers to go out of business because of that, because that's a tough job, man.
You know, what if that farmer, instead of growing a monocrop that's all GMOs, he's got 2,000 acres of corn. What if you had 2,000 acres of 2 or 3 different 100 types of food growing?
Yeah. What?
You
Yeah.
know, he'd make a hell of a lot more money doing that than corn. You know,
But
it'd be sick.
the question is, can they even do that? Because I don't know much about it, but I would be willing to bet if they shift away from that GMO corn or they shift away from that GMO crop, man, I bet they get taxed like hell because of that non-GMO. There's got to be something there that keeps them
Well,
from doing that.
they do. You know, if you're on a farm that does not use the GMO seeds, and nature happens to blow stuff over on your land, and those GMO seeds start growing on your property, they will come and they will try to take your land. And if you don't stop using their seeds, right?
That's insane.
So, yeah, that is just how did we get to a place like this where these corporations are, you know, I mean, it's the farmers are, they are half the problem because they're accepting this stuff, you know. I
Yeah.
mean, some of them have no choice because that's the only way they can make money. But how our government can treat farmers that way, for one, and the corruption in these organizations that run it, man. I can't believe it. It's just crazy. Because
Well,
the
that's what
amount of poisons that are in the food, just
That's what I'm saying. There's got to be some kind of penalty or fees or license or taxes or something that these people, because like, everybody walks around and saying like, oh, they're not going to take my guns, they're not going to enslave me or whatever. But like the system is what does it, man. It's not. I don't think it's going to be like they're knocking on people's doors, enslaving people. It's like we live in this matrix like system. It's the system itself that does it. So it's like there's got to be. I don't know, man. I wish I knew a farmer that did it on this scale to ask them. But there's got to be a tax or something that keeps them sort of in
they
line,
get
so to speak.
subsidies. They get
Okay.
subsidies, and for planting that stuff. You know, otherwise, I mean, you're on your own.
Right.
But you're getting subsidies to grow their seeds, all that stuff. Then you got to use their protocol, so it means you got to use their poisons on your crops. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy how there's natural ways to do it and not have to worry about the pests. Because monocrops ruin soil because there's no diversity. It's just so they heavily fertilize it to get it to grow as they're ruining the soil.
Hmm.
And you can regenerate soil.
Yeah, I've heard about I don't know much about it, but I've heard about continuously farming the same place the way it's done on a like industrial scale.
Yeah,
I heard that like robs the soil of all the
no
nutrients and stuff.
nutrients,
Yeah.
and then it's heavily poisoned. So there's no bio in there's nothing in the soil. It's basically dead soil. It's dry, and so once they get everything planted, they fertilize the shit out of it, and it's
So
engineered to grow in that soil. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Well,
So
it is. It's engineering. That's exactly what it is. Um, so if somebody's going to grow their own garden, like, how do you recommend? Like, do you just go get some topsoil and plant in that, or like, what do you recommend for like the soil part of it?
depends what they're planting, really.
Okay.
And what kind of if they're in like a raised bed, a raised garden bed, or using pots or bags and stuff to grow in, then just give them a mixture of what to put in there. Some
Okay.
compost and some, topsoil, and then you got, if you're planting grapes, they like an acidic soil, so you want to put an acidifier in there, and perlite, and you just a lot of stuff you can put in there that just and helps the soil drain. And if like if you're in a clay soil, you put stuff in there that breaks up that clay so the roots can grow. Or just so many little things. But
Okay.
the best way when you're just starting out, if you just want to do raised garden beds, you have the most control over everything because you're controlling the environment. You got a box, right? And then you're putting your soil and amendments in the box. So your weeds are going to be next to nothing because there's no reason for them to grow,
Right.
right? Out in here, if you're planting in the ground, that's where the weeds are growing already, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That makes sense.
but start small or plant a tree or two in your yard or whatever, and just start small and learn. You gotta observe what happens. Kind of work work with nature. That's all you can do because as soon as you work against it, it's going to screw you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when
Um,
bad things happen.
yeah, for sure. So I wanted to talk to you about entrepreneurship, man, and like trade entrepreneurship specifically because it, man, I tell people entrepreneurship's not a job, it's a lifestyle, you know. It's like it's not I don't know if you at least in the beginning, if you're looking for like a 9 to 5, it might not be for you, you know. It's like the
Yeah.
entrepreneurship part of it. And then the trades part, I don't know about you, but when I was in high school, nobody told us, "Hey, you can make really good money doing trades." You know, like you can. This could be
No,
a
they
thing that,
didn't.
like,
They
they
didn't.
didn't tell us that.
And that's what they should have been telling everyone, man, because I kicked myself, because I didn't do that. I went in the Marine Corps after high school, and but my youngest son is going to be in the electricians program. He's 21 years old. He gets in the electricians program, internship. He'll be making six figures within a few years.
Mm,
He'll be fine. That's where the money is in trade, especially down in the big cities. He'll be in Rochester.
okay.
Yeah, trades are where it's at. I mean,
Well, so I mean, there's several problems with like not telling people in high school about trades. I mean, the first thing is you need trades. You know what I mean? You need
yeah,
trades, and like the trades can help a lot of people who feel that they're not made for like college or university, which is like the second point I was going to make. Because
and
I remember
robots can't do it.
yeah, well, I remember, man. We had the whole deal. Like, we had people come to the school. We had like, the military people would come to the school, and people
Yeah,
would talk to them about their careers. And we had the job shadowing and stuff. But it was like, at least this is how it was when I was in school. If you didn't go to the military or if you did not go to college, they wanted you to think that there was nothing for you to do.
yeah, you're a
Eh,
loser.
yeah, but I mean that's clearly not the case, man. Because you have
Yeah,
I use this joke sometimes. Like, you don't understand how important a plumber is until you need one. You know what I mean?
exactly. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. If you're in your house and your toilet's backed up and it's just everything's a catastrophe, you don't understand how important that job is. Um,
and it's funny how kind of disrespected tradespeople are
for
as
sure.
far as what things cost because they'll throw that money down on an attorney when they need one.
Yep.
And they're like, they don't care how high priced an attorney is. They're snakes, right? But a plumber, they don't want to pay the plumber what he's worth,
Yeah.
because that just, you know what I'm
Well,
saying?
yeah, yeah. I got you. But the thing is though that you need somebody's got to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody's got
Oh,
to
for
repair the
sure.
plumbing. I mean, you can either do it yourself if you know how, or you're gonna have to hire somebody. That's just like somebody's gonna have to repair the roof at some point. Somebody's gonna have to fix the plumbing. Somebody's gonna have to take care of the landscaping, whatever it is. Like these things. And what's crazy, man, is like I think a lot of young people who are kind of in that space getting into the work life of an adult, they don't understand like they can capitalize on the fact that nobody wants to do this. Like nobody
Yeah.
wants to do this hard ass work. They can go out and learn a trade and make decent money at it because it's just hard to do.
And one thing too, all their friends that are going to school are racking up debt like crazy
Man, that's
to get a terrible job when they're done. And if you go into the trades, you're done within 2 years, usually 1 year, maybe even less.
yep.
You get into a union and you have no debt because it doesn't cost very much to go to trade school. You're starting off fresh, making a
Yep.
ton of money. You can be in a home within 3 years, making six figures, and you're okay, you know. But at
Yep.
school, you go to college for 4 years. Now what? You haven't
Mm,
done anything for 4 years, but dick off and drink and whatever, and you got
yep.
this paper in your hand. Now what you gonna do? You know?
It is absolutely insane that debt that you get from a college education, which it should help you in like improve your life. It is insane that that is the only debt that you cannot get bankruptcy to get out of. Like you can't claim
Yeah,
bankruptcy to get
yeah,
out of that
yeah.
debt.
That's so sad, man.
But that's literally like that is that's past insane. That's almost like diabolical that you're like, okay, I'm going to go to this school to try to get a good job to improve my life so I can provide for my family. But then like you are stuck with that debt until you pay
Yeah,
that shit off.
and you didn't learn how to take care of your family.
Man, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Trump is talking about making like a free education thing. I don't know if you saw him talk about that or not.
No, I think that'd be great. I mean, nothing wrong with that. These
Yeah,
colleges they don't use any of their own money to run their schools. They get these endowments, man, and then they all the money they're making off these students, man, it's crazy. These
well,
colleges are
I mean, I'm not
multi billionaires, you know.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Like, I'm not against college or anything. Obviously, we need people like there's certain jobs that need a college education. My problem with college is most universities, like major, not technical colleges, but major universities these days, it's like they're more concerned about indoctrinating the students than they
Yeah,
are educating the students on what it is that they're there to begin with. You know, like it's become a whole political thing, man.
and some departments there's more administrators than there is students, you know, because they're making all these new positions, you
Yeah,
know, for all these stupid, things that nobody cares about, except
right.
a certain people that are easily influenced, and
Yeah,
it's just, yeah,
yeah.
people are starting to wake up, I guess. I hope, you know.
Well, it's kind of sad, man, because like I said, that's supposed to be an institution that people go there to better their life. And
Yeah,
they go there, and a lot of them, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them are being force fed this indoctrination bullshit basically, and they're getting brainwashed while they're there. You know, and I mean, you see that you're starting to see it, like especially in public school systems, you're starting to see it trickle down to like high schools and middle schools and education. I mean, elementary schools. Um, and it's sad, man, because like I don't think that's what that was meant for. You know,
no, no, not at
like
all.
I mean, I can't imagine being a parent right now and having a child that goes to a public school system. Like I would be absolutely terrified. I
Yeah,
mean,
my sons, all three of my boys went to a public school, but out in a suburb, not the biggest suburb, but
right?
really good community. And you had your riffraff in the school and stuff, but what school doesn't have
Yeah.
dumbass kids, right? But they ended up. My kids were on the number one public high school wrestling team in the country,
Hmm.
so it was good for them.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Some people I don't have any I don't have a horse in this race to decide on this, but some people talk about public school, private school. I mean, I would think that the public school, I guess you want to be careful what you're exposed to, but at the same time, man, you want to be able to handle those different kind of people. I
Yeah,
think like learning the people, learning relationships. I think that's one of the biggest things that we learn from a school system, like being around those
but
people.
yeah, no, the public schools too depends what city you're in. It's about
Mm,
leadership,
yeah,
because if you have, it depends what your city's leadership is what your schools are going to be like,
that
right?
makes sense. Yeah, that
You
makes
have
sense.
conservative leadership in your city, you're going to have a conservative type of school. You're not going to have a lot of because your entire population in the school thinks the same way you do, right?
Mm,
you know, so but a lot of the schools in these inner cities are mismanaged. The money they get all
yeah.
these money for programs that doesn't go to these programs. They get the money to help people, but they don't help people, which it's just crazy.
I don't know if it's like this in the school system. I'm pretty sure it is. well, it would make sense to think that it is, but I heard Joe Rogan talking about one time the homeless situation in, I think it was San Francisco or somewhere like that. Like there's people in San Francisco who are paid to solve the homeless problem, and like if they solve it, then they're out of a job. So,
Yeah,
so
50
like,
or
how does that
80
work?
billion dollars. Yeah, like 50 or 80 billion dollars they have put towards that.
Yeah. So like, but I
And
mean,
none
if the
of that's
person
gone to, yeah, it's crazy, man. It's,
and I mean, I haven't been to San Francisco, but I've heard people that talk about it that have lived in California, and they say it's not like you go there now compared to what it used to be. But like, think about that. These people get paid to solve the homeless problem. Well, if they solve it, then they're out of a job. So
yeah, and it's crazy. And that's the type of government we have now. You
yeah,
know,
it's
it's
oh
it's
man,
all it's all they look for new programs to throw money at and not do
yeah,
anything, you know,
yeah.
because it's
Well,
sad.
I think Elon's gonna clean a lot of that up too with that efficiency thing. You know,
That'd be nice, you know, and I just can't believe all the people that are pushing back on the government having accountability, you
mhm,
know, which we should
yeah,
be able to know how much the government's spending on a hammer, right? Or
right.
whatever, what, you know, wherever
Well,
they're putting the money, we should know exactly where that money's going and how much they paid for it. And if they're overpaying for it, find somewhere where they can get it for a cheaper price, you know?
yeah.
It's
Well,
just,
it's crazy. Like, so the crazy thing is that you or me or any other business owner, we can be audited by the government. They can come in
yeah,
and say, "Hey, let me see your books." But it's like when it comes time to audit them, it's like they don't want to. They don't want to do it that way. You know?
yeah. But the Pentagon just failed their sixth or seventh audit or something like that. And they
That's
don't know where
crazy, man.
trillions of dollars just disappear. Come on.
Yeah, that's great. Like that. And then you know, you think about too, like businesses, small businesses, large businesses, even if they don't do the right thing, man, your customers, your clients, like you're out. You know what I mean? The market will decide you're not, if you're not
Yeah,
good at what you do, you're out. But it's like with these kind of places, they're there regardless. If they do a good job, a bad job, doesn't matter. They're there. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
they're going to get the money from wherever. It's just, I don't know, man. It's crazy. Um, Trump. So not to keep talking about Trump, but Trump said that he's going to eliminate the payroll, the income tax from the IRS. And man,
They can do it.
well, I think he said that he's going to do it with tariffs.
That's
Is
the
the
way it used to be. That's how
yeah,
our country used to be funded, is by tariffs before taxes were even a thing. You
hmm,
know, they just created the taxes to pay for war. And
yeah,
then once they paid that debt off after the war was done, the tax stopped. And then they had no taxes until another war came up. Then they had an income tax or taxes to pay for the war. Once they paid it back, it was done. But then
hmm.
after like third or fourth time, I'm sure like, hey, we can keep taxing these people and they don't say shit, right? We
Yeah,
just tax them. And
yeah,
yeah, and you know,
man, and
taxes
it's
are
like,
it's against the Constitution for one. Taxes are. So I mean,
but like, okay, I would even say that if you want people to contribute in a certain kind of way from taxes, I kind of see where you're going with that. But the problem is that we're taxed. First of all, we're the amount that we're taxed is just insane. But then we're taxed multiple times
yeah,
because you're taxed on the income that you make. You're taxed on that. And then you go buy something, then you're taxed on that.
yeah,
And then once you've bought it, you're taxed again for owning the thing for property tax. It's just
yeah,
like we're taxed. The same dollar is taxed like 4 or 5 times when it's all said and done.
yeah. It's a big game. It's a racket, man, and it's absolutely crazy. And I mean, they do it, taxes do it, and corporations do it. Look at if you look at your cable bill or your cell phone bill,
Mm,
and you see all the little things they add to it, this tax, they're making up taxes, right? They're making up fees. Before you got 14 or $15 in fees, and there's like 5 or 6
mhm.
different things, you know? Like, what the hell? I'm paying for that every month. You
Yeah.
know, but by how many millions of subscribers they have, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
millions and millions. And then, man, the
It's
game is rigged.
I mean, that's what it seems like. It's hard to look at it and not say that it's rigged that way, you know?
George Carlin was right, you know.
Who's
You
that?
know George Carlin, the
Nah.
comedian?
I
Oh,
I
you
don't
gotta watch him. You gotta He's one of the OGs, man. Look up
Okay.
some George Carlin, and he talks about the government being in you want to be in the big, big club, but you're not in it, and just, oh, he
I'll
has,
look him up.
he has predicted everything that is going on right now back in the 70s, 80s, 90s in his comedy. Oh no, yeah, you'll absolutely love him. He's a
Yeah.
legend, George Carlin.
It's crazy, man. I appreciate comedians doing that because it seems like comedians are the only people that can tell you the truth and not get criticized for it. Like you
It's
think
coming
about,
back now. Yeah, for a few years there, we had a lot of comedians that were afraid to say anything,
yeah,
you
yeah.
because they
Well,
didn't want to get canceled.
I think just a lot of people in general now are starting to feel more comfortable, like having these kind of conversations, like what we're
Yeah,
having. Because for a minute there, man, we were getting to the point where people were afraid almost to speak out about stuff like this, and you got to be careful with that. Because if you get to the point where you get like freedom of speech, I know we talk about freedom of speech,
yeah,
freedom of religion, all this kind of stuff, but if you get to the point where you can't voice your approval or disapproval of what's going on, like that's dangerous. That's
yeah,
dangerous. And we
yeah. And
just,
there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, man. But people, both sides, would not see the corruption on their own side. Wherever it is,
yeah.
because that's like Santa Claus is real. You know what I mean? They don't want to believe there's any corruption on their team.
Yeah.
So they won't hear anything else, but it could be fake, it could be untruths, but as long as they don't have to come to terms with, hey, maybe there is some corruption going on here, right? They just don't want to admit it because then
Well,
they fear losing friends because their
yep.
thoughts will change. It just, yeah,
Well,
it's sad.
I feel like a lot of people feel that way because they don't they don't want to accept the reality. You know what I mean? Like they
Yeah,
would rather be ignorant to the bad things and not have to worry about changing it. And they like, and this is all sides of the political spectrum, all sides of all
yeah,
people. It's like they don't want to deal with the fact that like this might be a little bit messed up. Like we might have, I don't know how we got here, but this is not good for us to be here. Like I don't know. People just don't want to deal with that reality. I feel like.
well, then you got half see the world through blue lenses, half sees the world through red, and nobody looks through clear ones, man. And they just
I like that. That's good.
I and I they're two wings of the same bird, in my opinion. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
they're all one. It's the government's not your friend, period. And
yeah.
they don't do anything efficient or right.
Right,
I mean,
right.
look at the government in California, the city government in California. Just their cities just burned down, and they weren't prepared for it. That's leadership, right? Not being prepared for a disaster. You
Right.
know, and
Well, I mean, a lot of people, man, a lot of people feel like we're in a spiritual war right now. And I feel like that's the best way to explain it. Cause we have, cause you talk about red versus blue and left versus right. First of all, whatever comes after all this nonsense that's been going on for the last couple of years, I think I think we're going to move into something new. I don't think it's going to be red and blue anymore, but it's
no,
like,
no,
it's
I
like
agree.
the best way I've heard it explained is that we're in a battle of like good and evil, like this is something that we're going through as a human race for our evolution, for the better, for our betterment of our species. Like we're going to go through this, and depending on how we go through it is going to depend on if we get to the next level in our evolution. Because you got to think about, like it's 2025, like in the 1800s and the early 1900s, every time we've evolved or went through the next stage, there had to be something like this. We probably just didn't know what it was because first of all, we're assuming that the history books are correct and accurate, and what people are telling us is actually what happened. But then it's like they didn't have the internet, they didn't have social media, so we didn't know, we didn't have the information. But now we're getting to a point where I don't know how else to explain it other than good versus evil, and I think it's just important for us to be on that good side, and it's not about looking at the other side and saying they're wrong or whatever it is, man. We got to work on this together because one side or the other didn't get us here, and one side or the other is not going to get us out.
No, I hear that. Hey, I gotta open my front door real quick. Give me two
Yeah,
seconds.
you're good. I'm going to finish up here in a little bit, anyways.
All right. Sorry, man. I wasn't expecting that.
No, you're good. You're good. Like I said, I'm gonna finish up here in a little bit, anyways, man. Let you get out of here. Before we do that, where can people find you at? You got a social media, website, or anything?
Yeah, website is foodforestdesignminnesota.com. So foodforestdesignmn.com, or else you can spell it out too. I have both of them.
Okay.
Or else you can find me Food Forest Design Minnesota on YouTube. Got about 350 videos on there doing food forest installs and stuff like that. And
Okay.
so, and Instagram, Facebook, same thing.
Okay. So, and if you want to send me that stuff, I'll put it in the links. I'll put the links in the descriptions. So one thing I ask everybody before we close, if you could share one of the most important lessons you've ever learned, it could be from your personal life, if you're comfortable sharing it, something from your career. What do you think is one of the most important lessons you've ever learned?
Oh, trust the people you go into business with. And people that check them out, even if they're your best friend.
Yep.
Keep your eyes open, watch your back. Because I've been through that many times where you just have to watch your back in business, because someone's always, you never know what their intentions are. So
yeah,
that's what
it's crazy you say that, man, because I was actually I've talked to a leadership coach today. I was talking to a leadership person yesterday. And it's like a big disconnect with people who lead people and like entrepreneurs and business owners. A big disconnect is like sharing the vision with their team. And it could be sharing the vision with a business partner. A lot of times people aren't really aligned. You like one thing that's crazy, man, because I've known a couple people who've been in business partnerships, and those things rarely do they ever survive. One person gets out of it, or one person feels like they got cheated or whatever. And it's like, I think it's because of the mismatch in the vision. They don't have the right vision. Like one person is more focused on the money, or one person is more focused on growing the company, or, one person wants to work these hours. I don't know, man, it's crazy, but I think that's a big one. Trust who you do business with, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, it's been a great conversation. We got into a lot of stuff right here. So I appreciate your time. I know we had a hiccup. I'm gonna make sure this thing is good to go once we finish up right here.
Yeah, if it doesn't, we can do it again.
Well, like I said, so I'm streaming to a couple of different places right now. And I think worst case scenario, I can probably just download it from one of those. It's streaming Facebook, X, YouTube, a couple other places, I think. So I should be good to go with that. But yeah, if you could just hang out for just a second, I'll explain to you about how we upload this thing, and I'll let you get out of here. But I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. Grow food, not lawns, everyone.
Yeah, man, great. We got some good stuff right there. Cool. Yeah, I'll let you know. So you're probably looking late February when this thing releases.
Okay.
Mid to late February. I'll keep you updated. Just feel free to reach out to me or whatever if you if you want to get, just ask. Hey everybody, listen, I really appreciate you guys tuning in today, man. If you like the content, if you found this episode useful, you can visit us on social media. That's YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, Amazon Music, Rumble, Instagram, Facebook, and Google and Apple Podcasts. There you can like our videos, follow, subscribe, and share. And again, we appreciate it. We'll see you next time.